You talk, or you won't leave this place.
Well, all right. I do all the laundry for the school. Satisfied?
That's so. Right. You can go.
That hurts.
Hey! Leave her! Her hands are much too soft. She never worked as a laundry girl.
Hello, listening people.
Hello.
Hello, Bartek. How are you?
Good, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm feeling like I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to show my Polish heritage, which is I'm a fighter.
Ooh,
I'll
nice.
never forget that one time when I asked you. I can't even remember what the question was. I think it was just like, what word would you just use to describe the Polish people? You were like, very strongly, like very affirmative, fighter.
Well, I wasn't allowed to say anything else because that's what my mama taught me.
Oh, is that what she said? When Bartek, when you're a full-grown man with a beard, and if another man asks you what Polish people are using one word, use fighter. And then,
when they're not...
and then you fought her. And then you're like, no. And then you said like...
That's true, because this is the other part of the quote. When Polish people are not fighting against a common enemy, they're fighting with each other.
There you go. We got it. So that's the end of the podcast. Thank you very much for attending Polish Heritage
And I'm going to put up a big fight. I'm the 4th best crane style user in the world.
And I'm the number 1 tiger user. So, Bartek, we are spinning Polish, obviously, because we're spinning facts. And we're Polish, and we're spinning Polish facts today. Any Polish facts you want to bestow?
I just gave the biggest ones, though.
Oh, yeah, but those are old ones that we know.
Oh, shit.
Any new facts? Any that we haven't heard on the pod before?
Do
you need to phone the Polish president to find out any? Because you do have a direct number towards him.
I'll call my stepmom, although I don't know what time it is in Poland right now.
It's important. We need it now.
In Poland. Polish facts. Fuck, what's one?
You gotta hit us.
I don't know, man.
What's the Polish governing body called? Is it like a parliament? Is it like a congress? Like, what's that called?
I think it's a parliament. They have a presidential palace, though, so that kind of sounds regal.
Palace?
I think that's what my dad called it.
Let's go to the Polish presidential palace.
I've been there, though. It's not that
You know
big.
what? I imagine if that sentence had more P's than it needed to.
Presidential Polish palace.
Polish presidential palace.
Which my Papa Piotr told me about.
So that's our Polish fact. Actually, we're a movie podcast, Bartek. We talk about movies, we talk about them and give our thoughts on them. We talk about ones that have come recommended. You recommended the movie for this episode.
I did.
You usually have a pattern. You recommend foreign movies every second time it's you, or whatever it is, every 6 weeks.
American, non-American. So I can go with Australian or whatever.
And you picked one this episode
that
is not an American film, but does have ties to an American film.
Ooh. Yes, I went a bit wild this time. I picked a film I haven't seen before.
Ooh.
It's very bold. It could have been bad, it could have been good, and I could have been hated or loved. I picked Tiger... Sorry.
I thought you were going to say, like, the Chinese name of this movie. I thought you were actually going to be like, and I picked Tiger! And I'm like, okay, Bartek's going out there. I know you can speak Polish, but and you play Japanese games, but I did think that you could speak Chinese.
Yeah, that's true. The Japanese people are off-screen this time. No, it's called Tiger and Crane Fists from 1976, and it is very clearly linked to 2 episodes ago.
And it also has the name Savage Killers.
That's true, too.
On IMDb, that's what it's called, I think.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So, yeah, you were going to say it has a link to a few episodes ago?
Yes, this episode is somewhat going to be a sequel to our Kung Pao episodes because this film is the film that most of its footage came from.
Yes, this is the film that Kung Pao did the abridged version of, you could say, the dubbed over footage. This is the real footage, because I did ask in that episode, I wonder what the context of some of these things actually was in the movie.
And little did you know, that inspired my choice.
So, what is your history with this feature-length film that we watched?
I've seen a film that uses footage from this film.
Oh, really? Which film?
It's called Enter the Kung Fist Pow.
Oh, is that a sequel to Kung Pao?
I think so. No, it is Kung Pao. That's right. That's the title. I forgot the title.
It's not Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Obviously, we both have not seen this actual film. We've seen the footage used and recontextualized and dubbed over by Steve Odekirk with Kung Pao. So this is the first time viewing for both of us. So spoilers alert for this kung fu movie from the 70s. I'll give you a quick spoiler now. What plot to spoil? So if you're really keen on knowing what the caps are for, you'll go to your grave wondering.
Yeah, here's a little bit. It's a kung fu film.
No. What you should have said is, here's a little bit. Just do a bunch of the sound effects. Is that going to be our whole entire review? Is just us making the noises? Because that was the movie. Yeah. Most of the movie was just. I've seen some kung fu movies. I guess we could say that, and they do sound effects a lot. Of course, it's a staple. But this one was
the sound
fucking aggressive with how much they use it, because they used it like nonsensically. Like sometimes it made sense and then other times they wouldn't use it, and you're like, well, why didn't you use it there? And then other times they did use it in situations you're like, well, why did you use it here?
Yeah, they were using it like during dialogue, because like you would have a bunch of like students, doing training, hitting punching bags while people are talking. And even when they're not in the frame, they're just off screen. It's like the people editing the film clearly had to put in sound effects that sounded realistic, because like, it's not just going to be realistic, matching the rhythm of someone hitting a punching bag. I mean, because you're not just going to have it like, oh, cut away from someone else in the scene without them in it, then cut to them there, and suddenly the sounds are back. So
yeah,
but they could have made them quieter.
No, louder. So, Crane and Tiger Fists.
I think it's Tiger and Crane Fists.
Tiger and Crane Fists. Tiger.
Yes, the same order that Betty talked about them in. Right. Tiger, Birdie.
We're going to be referring to all of the characters by their Kung Pao names, most likely. I'm not going to call him what he was. He's called Wimplo, and that's what he will forever be.
On the way here, I was actually just trying to remember some of them. I know that, like, the two main guys, I know their names, but the rest is just, yeah.
Yeah, what was the Wimplo guy? He had a good name.
Liu Kang.
Liu Kang, which sounds like a Mortal Kombat character.
I think it is a Mortal Kombat character.
Oh, is that where it got its name from?
Clearly.
Am I gonna get the receipts out for the Mortal Kombat franchise? You fucking hacks! You taking this from Tiger and Crane Fists? Where's Tiger and Crane Fist credit? Huh? I'm not seeing it. But yeah, I am not 100% familiar with the kung fu genre. I guess I've seen a few. I've seen Bruce Lee movies, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've just seen good ones, but this was not good. This was very bad. I was bored for a lot of the time, and the most enjoyment I got out of it was noting down what didn't change between the translation of Steve Odekirk's version of these dynamics are verbatim the same, and that was interesting.
That was one of my big surprises. I didn't realize that that Kung Pao's almost like a parody of this film.
Yeah, except for yes. Obviously some things are flipped around, but I got a huge enjoyment out of seeing like the Master and Wimplo's relationship is the exact fucking same. Like
the only difference is that he's the best student.
Yeah, he's the best, but he still tells him to shut up and stop being annoying. You fool! And he hates him. So what did you think of this movie? This film?
A big part of my enjoyment was the fact that I know Kung Pao. In a weird way, the fact that I've seen Kung Pao and I saw it recently gave this film a kind of like cozy, familiar feeling in a way.
Because you knew what the scenes were going to be, but you also didn't?
That too, but also mostly like the settings. Like, oh, here's that temple from where they do the training.
Here's this musical sting.
This musical sting, the sound effects, the things that didn't change. So as a fan of Kung Pao, there was some enjoyable merits to this film. Beyond that, We watched it English dubbed,
Yes.
which we talked about in the Kung Pao episode. There's an inherent enjoyment factor in that to an extent.
One of the most enjoyable things too is how little Steve Odekirk had to change his version of characters, because that's how the dubs sounded for those versions, especially Betty. Betty, the guy who did Betty, sounds pretty much like Steve Odekirk's version of Betty, except for Steve Odekirk turned it up just a little bit, but not that much. It's not like the original version of Betty is just like, hello, I'm Villain Man. The original version of Betty is, hello there, I like you. And it's like, it's just as stupid as in the Kung Pao one.
True, but you gotta admit, there was a bit of like a contrast between like the Wimplo voice and him in this film where he sounds like an almost like reasonable adult.
Not in the first act where he's just like, being told, you're not going to try and learn my way, are you? No, I'm not.
The tiger enters.
He did have some of the Wimplo things. The most different voice was the, he's still alive, Betty. He's still alive, Betty.
He didn't have a voice.
That's exactly right. You know who didn't change? I almost wonder, because I know Steve Odekirk did all of the voices except for Woe's voice. But there was one voice in this, I'm like, oh, this dub is the exact same, and it's the mayor of the town guy, where he's just like, it's lovely that you're beating up my citizens, because he sounded exactly the same. He didn't change a fucking thing when he did that voice.
I noted him too for various reasons. First of all, yes, his first line is like slightly less ridiculous than Kung Pao's. He's still welcoming this guy whose goons are beating people up.
He didn't change. In fact, Steve Odekirk made him a little less silly by the end, because at the end he says like, "Good job," when he gives him a thumbs up. It's just so absurd.
Yeah, this weird sycophantic character. His voice.
Yes, you killed all the masters. Great. You did a great job.
I think I would spend a lot of this film trying to pick out, like, what accent is this? Is he like an Asian Englishman, an Asian Australian or something?
I don't know, but I did like when Master Betty said some line, it was like, you speak like a fool. Shut up. And I'm like, he does. He speaks like a fool. The enjoyment factor outside of Kung Pao being this thing, let's try and see if we got actually... Did you have any actual genuine feelings about this movie that didn't derive from the fact that we have seen this reimagined?
I did get some enjoyment out of the story, as simple as it was. Even aside from the fact that I'm looking at Betty in another film, that villain I felt added well to the story, because we were wondering, like, what was this guy in the original film, and a big surprise, he was almost the same thing, just like an explanation of like, oh, he is invincible other than these two Achilles heels he has.
Yeah.
And for most of the film, because this is an English dubbed thing that has to, match the lips and stuff, a lot of its explanations feel very blunt and to the point, or an almost comedic degree, like in the flashback fight where they keep talking about my style.
Yes,
style. Feels like it could almost be like a fashion battle. And for most of this film, the big conflict is like, you cannot defeat this guy unless you master and conjoin these two styles that we have.
Yeah.
And walking into the film, I thought it was just going to be this simple thing of like, okay, they are going to work together. I'm sure Wimplo guy is going to die because I've seen his dead body.
Yes.
It was different in this film, but he still died. And when that didn't end up happening, despite all the build-up, it was this kind of thing of like, okay, this film has kind of suckered me along with this notion that you need to do this to beat him. So what are they going to do now? And I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, did I have genuine entertainment and enjoyment from this movie on actual merits of the movie? Oofa. I don't know. I did. I honestly.
That's okay.
I think it was boring for a lot of it and very predictable. The things that interested me that weren't from Kung Pao. The stuff that I carry over were like, oh, okay, you've structured it like this. I'm thinking I would change this around and focus on this. I was really surprised by, in this movie, Wimplo, I keep calling him that.
Yeah, Liu Kang.
it felt like, even though with how the movie is introduced and how it ends, it felt like he was the protagonist of the movie.
I think
to me,
I think he was until like he got replaced by the guy that we think was the main guy.
But that's not how the movie starts. The movie starts with this guy as the protagonist, and he's going to come in and he's going to teach this guy this. But then it switches, and now he's the main character, and it felt weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like have one of them be the actual protagonist, because by the time you get back to the main guy, I don't give a shit about him. I don't know much about him. He seems arrogant and annoying, and because we've spent most of the film warming me up as an audience member to Wimp Lowe's character, because he starts out sniveling and kind of an asshole, but he becomes noble. But the other guy, he was already at that level the whole time, and just kind of standing there with his hands on his hips, being a smart ass and being a smart aleck, and just kind of being bland. And then when we go back to him, and it's like, and then the girl is wanting him, and I'm like, your boyfriend just died heroically, and you're instantly on this guy. Maybe that's a culture thing, I don't know, or it's just terrible writing. But like, I got frustrated with the movie in that regard. It's like, oh, okay, this is my brain. I'm like, okay, make one of them the obvious protagonist, and the other one the obvious sidekick character. But this movie kind of wanted it to do... It didn't feel like it wanted to. It felt like it accidentally made it both.
It felt like they were going to kind of be sharing the light for a fair bit, but Wimplo dies a bit too early for that to really feel like, you know, that's what happened. Like, the most you get between them is like a little bit of conflict, and then his heroic sacrifice away from him.
Yeah, and I was annoyed with that. And then, see, the villain... The movie starts with the swinging the chain scene, which is amazing.
Yes.
And it was just as stupid.
And it was like near the end of what would have been a full scene too.
I just lost it, because the movie begins and I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what the fuck happened. Like, I get it in context. I think the idea is he's doing what he does in the town, where he invited the master of this practice over with his best student, and he's going to kill them instantly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, we don't know that at the beginning, so it's like the beginning is, it's like you've ended halfway through a movie,
yeah,
and then like they're all fighting, and he's like
one of the first lines is, "You've given me a good fight" or something, but they're like just standing there while he's swinging his chain,
and then he starts killing and fighting them, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, who the fuck was that guy? Why do I have to give a shit about this villain guy with the iron hands? Like, even in Kung Pao, he had to restructure it.
Yeah.
So that way we actually understood who the fuck this guy is and why I should care. Because it's like, throughout the whole movie, I was like, okay, but what's this guy's deal? And then the guy's deal is like, he works for Japan. Like, yeah, but what does that mean in the context of this film? I'm sure historically and culturally it means something, but in, like, the context of this film, it's not like the Japanese are, like, a thing that we have to encounter. It's just, like, this one guy.
Yeah.
And throughout the whole movie, it's like, and he just wants to prove he's the best.
Yeah, I had to read up what all that context meant. It was, like, the Japanese invasion of China in World War II and stuff.
And it's like, okay, cool, that's interesting information, but it's like, what does this do to strengthen him as a villain? Like, far out. Kung Pao managed to make him make more sense by making him like a sniveling underlord for aliens. Because we even got to meet the fucking aliens for a start.
Yep.
And we got understood what they were about slightly. And like, you know,
It felt also very weird because you first see him on top of this waterfall. He beats them very easily and they flow away, and it feels like, oh, the villain has beaten the heroes and he doesn't even have to do anything anymore. The river will just take them away.
Yeah.
Then it cuts to them running away and the Betty guy's chasing them too. And it just felt very weird because it's established like, oh, he has underlings later on.
Yeah.
He's gone to this location that throughout the rest of the film is like the safe haven for the main characters. So it has this really weird thing throughout the film. It's like, oh, they're back here. The Betty guy has been here though. So is it really... It feels like kind of compromised that this is like their safe place.
Yeah, and the Betty guy, another thing too that, and maybe you could explain this. Maybe my brain was zoning out and I'm mixing all the information.
Yeah.
Was there an explanation of why he has these fucking metal things there, other than those are his weak spots? Like, what was that?
Yeah, I think he's just meant to be like, an Achilles character. Like he's super strong, but he's got these specific weak points.
But does that work in this movie where, in a manner, what you're speaking there is in a way, a supernatural-esque type of twist or turn or like mythological?
Mm.
But does that work in this film? Because even in Kung Pao, that was like a constant thread throughout the movie of the alien aspect, but also like he's the chosen one and the mythological nature and the Simba scene in the sky, like even in Kung Pao, that was like a constant thing throughout. So even when we got to the silliness at the end, where now Betty's flying and he's got supercharged energy, it made sense. And like the pyramids on him that they have to rip out, his what was it, the caps they call them, right?
Yeah, the caps.
There was an explanation somewhat there, right? Like in my brain, I always got it like to get his superpowers, the pyramid aliens put those on him, right?
Yeah.
But in this, it's like he's just invulnerable to like, but nobody else in the world is magical in any way. It's just this one dude.
Yeah, it was very weird, and I feel like they even compromised that a bit by having like, you had the scene of him like getting beaten up by the rods, and it was very funny the fact that it was like basically the exact same in Kung Pao. I thought maybe the groin shot might have been
no, even the kick in the groin at the end is the exact same.
Yep. You have that scene establishing like, oh, you really cannot hurt this guy. He only gets defensive when you like go for the pyramids.
He doesn't give a shit.
But then there are moments later in the film during some of the final fights where he does get staggered a bit by some blows. So it feels like, oh, so he does have like some sort of weaknesses.
No, at the end they just fell apart because the chosen one stand-in threw fireworks on him, and he really reacted to that.
Yeah.
Even though every other variant of pain that's been inflicted upon him, he's never reacted. So it's like, oh, could you just set him on fire then?
Yeah, and also, in a way, because the film suckered me at least into the whole thing of like, oh, you need to combine the stars to beat this guy. Because I was in that zone, I wasn't really thinking like, oh, what if you used weapons? Like
He does?
Yeah, he does. I was like, would a knife to the throat do it?
Yeah, but they're honorable.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they are honorable, but like the idea never really got brought up, despite the fact that he has an iconic weapon.
No, exactly. That they destroy with some fucking fireworks and shit. That was fucking great. There was another moment too that like it raises these questions in your brain about how the world works, right? Where they make a statement as like, your martial arts is inferior to ours. It only works because of your caps and whatever, and you can't feel pain. But it's like, but when he was in fights, right, where he was actually fighting back, like most of the time he'd just stand there and let you hit him just to prove that he's awesome. But when he did fight back with his kung fu, he would kick their asses, like, genuinely with his kung fu.
I guess that lends into the idea that he doesn't have to worry about defense, because, like, when you're fighting, you have to, like, not have openings and stuff like that.
True.
So,
but
yeah.
but when he did block them and use defense, he would just decimate them. When he did have to demonstrate defense and offense, he would still kick their asses.
That is true, yeah.
But then he would cheat, right? Because then he would be like, okay, give me my... Because he was going to get beaten by the master, but then he was like, give me my iron hands.
Was he going to get beaten, or was he just, like, getting more defensive because he went for the pyramids?
He went for the pyramids, but he was getting close. He was getting close. The master was getting too close, because the master is the only other character that knew that you needed both methods. Hence, at the end, when the master does die, he's like, this is how you defeat him. I know this. I almost got there, but I died.
That's true.
You have to do this. But if Betty played fair in the courtyard and didn't resort to weaponry, the master could have defeated him then and there, because the master realized he needed to utilize both methods to kill him right then and there. Mm-hmm. He realized that, but he got sick as well. It's still very funny. Scene.
The first time you hear his voice got a big laugh out of me.
When he started coughing and he's like, I was waiting for Betty to be like, oh, and again with the snorting.
Because it was because his first scene was his version of the, hey, I remember you. Like, he's still got like this really croaky kind of voice. Yeah. Weak voice.
But I was talking about like, when he starts snorting like a pig, coughing when he's after had the fight with Betty, and they're like, please, he's too ill. or whatever, and he like throws his iron claw at that guy's shirt and rips it, and the old master puts the cane on him and is like...
And you have to be like Monkey in a piñata.
Yeah, what do you get when you cross an owl? With a bungee cord.
I love also
My
that the mayor guy still got everyone to clap like twice for the villain.
Oh, there was this one moment, and I can't remember... Ooh, was it the mayor? I think it was the mayor. There was some character where, and I swear it's the dub, where they said the same word twice in a row, but it was like the exact same audio clip of it twice in a row. You want to hear the biggest laugh I got?
Sure.
We watched this on YouTube.
Yes.
It's freely available on YouTube. The biggest laugh I got in the movie was the very end when we got the copyright notice.
The very stern copyright notice.
When the very angry man was telling you, if you copyright this, you're going to prison, you motherfucker. Here I am, watching it on YouTube.
Something that he would never conceive in his life because he's talking about VHS tapes.
And this video's been up there for like, I don't know how many years.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
And then he's got this angry, he sounded so angry. And he's just like, if you fucking copyright, you might as well have just said, if you ingrates copyright this and show it without the permission of this video distribution, then you're going to jail. And I hope you go there because I want you to die in jail, in prison. Get stabbed by me because I'm the warden. I'm waiting for you. That was the biggest laugh I had because I'm sitting here watching it on my TV.
It was the stern school principal at the assembly.
That was a great moment. Another thing I didn't like about this movie was our heroes like terrible people. There was this one moment where like Betty's gang, I love how I keep calling him Betty. I don't even remember what his real name was.
I remember the beginning of his name. It was Liu, but I can't remember the 2 next names.
Liu. So
not to be confused with Lou.
His gang is like intimidating the town near the end, and there's this one guy who's like trying to get out of the town, and he's like, one of his gang members is like, you look like the guy.
Yeah.
And that's enough for me. And he starts like beating the shit out of this like random civilian. And it cuts to our hero and the girl pretending to be like a husband and wife with a kid type of thing. And they just look at that happen and then just like walk away.
Yes.
And I'm like, what a hero. What a hero. You know what I mean? Like, what a piece of shit.
I mean, I understand where he's coming from in that scene, but...
No, but at that point, he's like, okay, I'm ready to fight the bad guy, right? But I got to get out of here to figure out what to do. Whereas, like, you know, like, it's a basic. We replaced the Wimplo character, who was a far more heroic person. He literally just got killed because he's such a heroic guy. Then you have this guy who's the replacement, and it's like... just coldly watches on and lets someone else get beaten probably to death because, you know, well, I don't want to get involved with that because then they'll know it's me. And then, like, I get it. There would be a cascade of events, but it's like, it's not very heroic, you know? Like, could you imagine Superman doing that?
Yeah, not saving the bus.
You know, saving...
Or whatever that
Man of
Steel thing was.
Let the kids die. I don't know, like that it was, but there's lots of things like that throughout the movie with him in particular. It was like, oh, this guy's a piece of shit. I don't give a shit about him. Like Wimplo's like, come on, let's fight. And he's like, all right, let's fight. And they do their fight. And he's like, he practically just wants to kill this guy. I'm like, what a hero. What a great guy.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't as interesting as the crane student.
No, and he wasn't as interesting as the chosen one in Kung Pao.
Yeah. I know that after I watched this film, I actually looked up, like, oh, what's the origins of this, like, crane and tiger style thing? And it was, like, this fable about how a monk saw a tiger attacking a crane, and the crane, like, used a bunch of these special, well, not techniques, because it's an animal, but, like...
moves.
All these moves to, like, save its other cranes, and, like, but also wear down the tiger without really beating it. And I do see some parallels with the Wimpler character in this film because, you know, he sacrificed himself to save the tiger guy, supposedly.
Yeah.
So there was some thought put into there, but it probably, would have been a much more interesting film if we got him all the way through, even if he does die at the end.
Now, we could talk about that type of thing and get really deep and spiritual and philosophical and cultural.
That's as much as I know.
No. We could do so much of that. And if we did, I want the people listening to consider that while the stuff we talk about like that, all of that stuff has the extreme juxtaposition of douche, 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 douche. Every scene.
There was one that
Every fucking scene.
There was one that I didn't notice because it was actually quiet during the scene. Because if you go to the YouTube comments for the one that we watched, it's all Kung Pao references
all the time.
Yeah, and it's interesting. A lot of them are time stamping moments and putting like the Kung Pao quote in there for like, you know, trivia spotting. There was one that pointed out in the scene where the Tiger Master's dying and the guy's like, you know, rubbing
the wound. You hear a little douche.
It's not douche, but there's like very gentle like clapping every now and then.
I heard that.
I missed
it.
What
the fuck was this noise? Because I'm listening to it on my sound system, so I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, and the comment was just pointing out like, how is this more awkward than the one in Kung Pao where he's like almost aroused by the fact that he's rubbing him?
Oh my god, this film was an embarrassment.
Oh, did you like the framing at times where the characters would be like half in frame, half out?
The camera would slightly pan over.
At first I thought like, oh, was like some of it lost in editing or something, but then the camera would like gently nudge to the side just to
a part of me went, oh well, this is in 4:3, maybe the original film was in 16:9 and this is like a VHS transfer, which it is, so maybe it's been cut off a bit, but then the camera would move to accommodate it, so it's like, wait, no.
Yeah, not no one, but in some scenes, like, the characters in focus are not in, like, the middle of the frame. They're at the edges.
It was a crazy ride. And I think, like, there were very few scenes that I saw in the movie that weren't in Kung Pao. Like, the most notable one was the bell scene, where they hid inside the big bell.
Yeah, the Betty chase.
Betty starts smacking that. That's, like, the most prominent one where I was like, I'm surprised he didn't use that. It's because it's pretty funny even in the normal version, but he didn't use that. That was like the most notable thing that I was like, oh well, that wasn't in.
Yeah, and it's like the second thing we see in the film after the river swing
in the chain.
And again, yeah, it's just so weird because why would he be doing that? He has goons to do that for him. Like, he looks so unsure throughout the whole thing.
Because he wants to kill them. He knows they're around because he's evil. He's a bad man with not nice feelings and happy feelings all of the time. Didn't even mention that line in our Kung Pao review, which is one I use a lot.
That's true.
I'm a happy man with nice feelings all the time. The music was annoying, just like it wasn't Kung Pao, but it made me appreciate that it's just the music. I thought Kung Pao was like replicating.
Yeah, I'm again just restating. I'm surprised at how much was just lifted from this film, even in like sound and dialogue.
The most awkward moment in Kung Pao is the most awkward moment in this movie too, which is the moment in which they're in the dojo or whatever it is, where all the guys outside of training, and Wimplo is talking to the Chosen One, and then it like. Just before it cuts, the big, loud, dramatic, sexy music plays and it cuts to the girl. You know that scene I'm talking about? Like, I can't replicate it with my mouth, the music sting. But it's like, there's this...
There was something corny, like that.
This corny, very 1970s Asian-esque inspired, like, you know, obviously music, but it's like weirdly 70s, but weirdly... period piece, and it just like cuts to her to let us know that she's an interest of love or something, and it's in Kung Pao, and I always thought, oh, that was a joke, but it's in this as well. It's the exact same, and I'm like, oh, he didn't have to change a fucking thing, did he? Like,
do we retract some praise for Kung Pao because of
no
this?
I praise it harder.
Okay.
Because you didn't even need to recontextualize some of this shit. Yeah, the voices were really funny in the dub because there are so many that did not have to change. Like, there were so many weird accents in this. Like you said, like, some of them had a real strong American vibe. Like, the main dude, like, the main guy. There was so many times where I felt like he was a King of the Hill character when he talked. Because, like, the guy who played Wimplo, he had a slightly, you know... Asian inflection. It wasn't just like, I'm an American man talking here. But then the other dude, like our actual hero man,
Yeah, the tiger student.
there were many moments in which he would just talk, and I was waiting for him to say y'all or stuff like that. You know, I was waiting for Alex from the Contrarians podcast to dub over this guy. Like, there was so many moments where I'm like, oh, this guy's not even trying to sound like what that guy would look like, what that guy looks like, emulate. No. But that's a part of dubbing, right? That's always like one of the fun things where you get some guy to come in and be like, yeah, but I've got this type of accent and I'm not changing it, even though the character wouldn't. That's a lot of nuts.
I like how the contrast of that character, like he spoke very gently and politely compared to, that's a lot of nuts. And he still
just laughed with nuts.
and he still asked for $4.
That's the hand gesture.
He
you
did the
have to
hand
use.
gesture, so they couldn't change that.
My finger points. So yeah, what else do you want to say about this? Was there anything surprising to you in terms of like things that just happened in the movie, differences, or like any other like kind of things where you went, oh, that didn't really change, or oh, this was placed here instead of there, like any of that kind of stuff?
In terms of things that didn't change, a lot of the stuff later in the film where he's training with the girl, like that scene with the candle that like pans to her and
You
back.
can defeat him now.
Yeah, the fact that was like almost the exact same, and then his like imagination sequences of like the ways he could do it, it was like the exact same things, lines,
Yeah.
comedic. Like,
But
was it a comedy in that scene? But
In that scene, it was done slower, though. Like, it took a lot longer to get to, like, the point he was making when it cut to, like, the cutaway gags, I guess, of
Yeah.
him being punched and kicked and whatever. Like, he just said it so much slower because the footage was a little bit longer.
and he
than-
wasn't saying things like, "I'll pretend to be a bird," but that would be stupid.
and the goofy faces.
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was an interesting change around in terms of like editing stuff is the I'm a Birdie 2 scene, in which he, in Kung Pao, like all of that's edited differently. Like in Kung Pao, that I'm a Birdie 2 scene is like in the midst them killing the master, but in the actual movie, it's when they're trying to get the girl, and she runs and does in the original Kung Pao in the Kung Pao movie that leads to the chosen one, I'm coming.
Yeah.
Chosen one, I'm coming. Chosen one, I'm coming.
You're right. Yeah, that was in the middle.
While
of something.
in the scene where the master does get killed, what he's reacting to is he can hear this swinging of the chain because he's not subtle. And he doesn't even try the art of surprise.
And the audio is very loud.
And another thing within the I'm a Birdie 2 edit that's different that I found interesting is in this version, in the original film, it starts out with Betty doing the bird noises and the camera pans over to the other crew doing the noises. But in the Kung Pao version, it's the opposite way around because the joke has to be they're making bird noises, cut to the master reacting, then cut to Betty going, and I'm just a birdie too, right? So the ordering of things are different for the comedic punch there.
I don't think I remember his goons being in that scene in this film.
No, they were. They were.
Okay.
But it was all one shot. It was like him doing the noises and then a slow pan over and it's his dudes rising up making the noises.
Mm-hmm.
But in the Kung Pao version, it's edited and cut around.
I remember the
different.
Kung Pao version, yeah.
So it was nice to see those little things and seeing like, okay, he like in Kung Pao, he had the comedy mindset, so he knew he had to rearrange these pieces. Because while watching it, most of it does play out pretty much the same. Like there's a surprising amount of stuff that like whole scenes where he didn't really have to change that much. But little moments like that are fun to note down because there's obviously the big changes where people change outfits and whatever in the Kung Pao version, and he has to comment on that. But it's like, now your clothes are blue.
Red clothes.
Red. Ooh, that's tender. And he cuts to his foot bleeding, right? Which isn't in this movie. But yeah, I liked a lot of that. I like noting down that stuff and being like, okay. And noting down like scenes that originally in the Kung Pao version had CGI added to it, and ones in this that obviously didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing like why he chose these scenes to be the ones with CGI elements and why he didn't choose others. It was interesting in that regard. I can't think of much else to say about it other than, like, it was just funny on its own. Like, the dub of it was funny, and the visuals of it were funny, and the fact that so little is actually explained, but also too much is explained, was also very funny to me.
Yeah, I figured that was just like a martial arts thing, because like I watched a few weeks ago The Big Boss and the Bruce Lee film in Rome, which The Way of the Dragon, and both of those films, once the final fight is done, you're like 10 seconds away from the credits. Like, the point of this film is done. And like I said earlier with the English dubbing, like getting directly to the point, I think, and I don't want to generalize, but I think, yeah, martial arts films tend to just get right to the point. Not really.
The fists.
Yeah, the fists, the fighting, and once the final fight is done, the credits will be there in a sec.
No, they're there right away.
Yes, but we also got the the very stern
man, the very angry man saying, "You motherfucker! How could you do this? How could you do this? I can't believe you've done this. How could you have done this? I can't get you out of this one." So. Anything else you want to say about this? I'm trying to think if there's any other things other than the woman had a more thankless role in this one than in Kung Pao. I remember you said in Kung Pao, you said you could tell by her performance that she's a real solemn character, and like you were like,
I did say that,
and and then in this, it's like she's none of those things either.
I forgot all about that, but I did say that.
So in this version, she's still like a fucking piece of like stupid trash character who's like giggly and like making weird statements and like not at all like a strong woman. One of the best bits was when she's like, I work at the laundry of this place, and he's like, okay, and then he's like, her hands are too soft, she doesn't do laundry. And I'm like, go get her. Like, that was the strongest moment in which she like just hit a bunch of guys for no reason, and then walked away, and then they were like, go follow her, like, let her go. Yeah, but I wanted to bring that up because you were like, yeah, you could tell by her performance. It's like, if anything, she's more pathetic in this movie.
That's so funny.
And then she was in Kung Pao where she would go, oh, wee, wee, wee. You can defeat him now.
She didn't have a father in this film, though.
No. She was just some woman.
She was Wimplow's childhood friend that loved him.
That was something. How weird was it noticing in this movie that there were so many moments that he was the Wimplo character in Kung Pao. Like, there were whole sections of this movie where it was like, oh, this was Wimplo? Not the other guy. Right. Okay. Like...
Oh, right, yeah, the new footage in Kung Pao that was standing in.
Yeah, when he was standing in, like the his chosen one!
Yeah, his death.
His death.
Because in this film, he dies by, like, waterboarding and then he drifts away in the river.
Yeah, but, like, there was, like, a majority of the film, it's like, the stuff he's actually going over is the Wimplo character more so than the main guy character, and mainly... the stuff he goes over with the main guy character is the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie, because that's how much this main guy character actually meant in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, we haven't even said his name.
I don't even remember it.
It was like Sung Shang, but...
Okay, Steve. So Steve, Steve Fox.
That's a different martial arts film.
Film.
It was a film.
I was talking about Steve Fox from Double the Fist. But,
oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you Tekken.
Okay, let's settle it and agree that we're gonna go with Mortal Kombat characters again.
Yeah, Liu Kang.
Liu Kang. I was surprised by that. Like, I was surprised. Like, oh wow, he really. Wimplo one was a major character in the original movie. Like in the Kung Pao one, it's like, oh, he's this pathetic side character, right? But in this one, it's like I said, he's a protagonist, and I was surprised to see how much footage was actually of his character, not of the other guy.
I agree.
Like the master dying scene, that was Wimplo, because Wimplo, that's his master, that's who he cares about. But yeah, are you ready to hear recommendation for next episode?
I guess just before that, do we recommend this film?
No.
What about as a fan of Kung Pao? Like, just to find all, like...
Yeah, I guess so.
Because I'm kind of like that, too, yeah.
You can watch it while you're doing other things.
I agree.
I don't think you need to do what I did, which is sit there on your couch, dedicate your full attention to it, because it doesn't work.
I did it in bed and it was fine.
It works in the way Steve Odekirk did it, which is he watches it and just makes fun of it, and then probably wrote some things down. If you want to do it like that, just make fun of it, then this could be a good group movie once you could have groups properly.
It could, yeah.
But I wonder what it would be like for a group of people who haven't seen Kung Pao.
That's a good point, yeah.
My finger points. So, yeah. It's my recommendation next.
It is.
So I'm recommending a sci-fi movie from the 1980s.
Ooh, a skiffy.
A ski-fee, yes. It is called Enemy Mine, which stars Dennis Quaid, brother of Randy. So that will be a fun time.
Which one was in Rocky and Bullwinkle?
Randy.
Randy. And this one has Dennis?
Dennis.
Okay, so we got both Quaids.
I didn't even remember Quaid was in Rocky and Bullwinkle.
I was just trying to remember, like, which film was it that we had a Quaid in?
I don't even...
I think it was Rocky and Bullwinkle.
You got me by the balls.
Maybe.
You got me by the balls with these Quaid bros. But...
If I'm wrong, you can point it out next episode.
Oh, come in and be like, who the fuck were you talking about? That was a different...
He hung out with Bullwinkle and, like, the fax machine, right?
Oh, far out. You got me. You know what? I'll say yes.
Okay.
That sounds familiar. Because, that's right, Rocky and Bullwinkle, like, a major plot point was it relied on facts. Not facts, but facts. So that's it. Where can people find us on the interweb? Other than, obviously, people make sure to check out Enemy Mine between the episodes so that you're all caught up, so you can join in on the discussion in terms of your listening. That's
Yes,
how you join in.
We will spoil it, probably.
But you can join in on our social media.
Yes, we are on Facebook. We have a page called Spit and Polish Presents. We are on Twitter under the same name.
Mm-hmm.
We upload our episodes onto many different websites. Podbean, Apple Podcasts,
Spanish one.
Google Plays, iHeartRadio. We're on, I think, all of them.
All of them.
All of them. And you can email us directly at spitandpolished@gmail.com.
You got it in one, Bartek, but I think the only way to end this episode now is with an intense fight of our different styles. Mine is of the spit style. Yours is of the Polish style.
Yes, I know I said at the beginning I'm the fourth best crane style user, but I mostly use Polish style.
He uses Polish style, which is fighter.
Yes, well, I'm copying that new Tekken character, the Polish woman.
Polish woman character in Tekken.
They just got added like a few weeks
I like
ago.
how you said it like I should know.
Sorry, I thought...
Ryan, how there's a new Polish Tekken character? Of course there is.
I think she's like the Prime Minister.
I thought we said
or
we're moving away from Tekken. We were moving towards Mortal Kombat. We're going to get into some Mortal Kombat right now.
Play the Mortal Kombat music.
Oh, yeah, get copyrighted.
Oh, what happens if we do copyright DMCAs?
Dush, 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 dush. That's what happens. Dush, 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 dush.
Okay, and just to end the episode, everyone, if you copy the recording of this episode onto a format like a public viewing or for resell
or VHS transfer,
or God forbid another VHS transfer in like a higher aspect ratio,
we'll be very disappointed.
We will be very disappointed. We'll be coming for you.
We'll be killing your family.
We'll be killing your family, and if you're in the other room, you'll know that will happen because of all the douche, douche, douche.
I'm gonna kill you, your friends, your family, your dog. If you got a dog, dead. They're gone, they're buried. Your panda, definitely out of here. Your bear, gone, dead, destroyed, fully sick. You're out of here.
And we'll forgive you if you can tell us what that is a reference to.